Right here.
Thank you guys for this beautiful panel. This is Salman Ansari, and I'm from Saudi Arabia, a writer and political commentator. So I think I'm just going to speak about like the perspective of Saudi Arabia, or like the mainstream in Saudi Arabia regarding this deal. We are definitely in support of any deal that would eliminate Iran from having a nuclear weapon. But at the same time, we'd go back to the Margaret point, which is we totally believe that the United States and the international community is focusing a lot and putting a lot of focus on the nuclear deal without putting enough focus on the support of the militias in the region. For example, Hezbollah and IRGC and what they do in different countries, and also in Houthis, with the Houthis in Yemen. And I think one of the main things that we need to identify is the principle. The issue we have as in Saudi Arabia and the GCC country is an issue of principle with the United States. We are definitely a very strong ally, but at the same time, we have seen the United States to be diverting from its stance by not taking care or crucial steps to eradicate extremism within the Middle East that has been fueled by the militias of Iran. So this is one of the things that I think need to be highly highlighted, if that's correct. So, and at the same time, one of the things that we would love to see from the United States to take back its leadership stance. This is something very crucial, and I think Obama has definitely, for my point of view, has succeeded in so many domestic affairs, but in international affairs he has not done enough at all, because we have seen how Iraq has been handed to the Iranian in a silver plate, and that's in itself is very troublesome for the whole region. So we would love to see the United States to be taking back its leadership stance and to be strategic when it comes to its relationships with its Middle Eastern allies. And one of the most important things that we have noticed is that we have seen like so many different think tanks in DC, I think including CSIS, are mentioning a lot about the strategy, the 10 years, 20 years strategy of the United States, which is to go to the Far East and neglect somehow the Middle East. We want your point of view on that. What do you think of the strategy of the United States? Do they really want to somehow put the Middle Eastern affairs like aside and just focus a lot on the Eastern or East Asia?
Quick answers. My answer is no.
I
think you make a very cogent and a very concise argument. I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, but I don't think we want to put the Middle East aside.
I mean, one of the Secretary's first speeches was about how much we're going to focus on Asia and the Asian pivot, and then I think 90% of his time has been focused on the Middle East. So I think maybe there's that hope, but it's not happening yet. And just to that other issue, which I think kind of segues into what he was saying, I think there is some perception that, okay, we're going to ally with the Iranians against al-Qaeda and these kind of Sunni extremist groups, and then we'll put them down. But kind of backing up what you were saying, I think the fact that the U.S. is kind of disengaged in some ways in Iraq and Syria, and they've turned into sectarian wars, which has only fed ISIS and fed al-Qaeda in a lot of ways, because in a lot of ways they describe their wars as sectarian wars. So it's great to think, oh, we'll just ally with the Iranians and take out these kind of Sunni extremist groups, but when you look at like what's happening on the ground, it's much more complicated than that.
I think it's easy to conflate two different elements of President Obama's strategy. First, when he came in, he recognized that he had a mandate to get the United States out of some major wars, starting with Iraq, Afghanistan. He called a war of necessity, but he ultimately greatly reduced the American presence there as well. And of course, now we've had to go back in a small way into Iraq, and probably the same will happen in Afghanistan. But that's strategy number one. The Asian pivot was about a reorientation toward an area in which we had underinvested and where obviously the United States has got a lot greater economic future than it does in the Middle East. And this has been the great drama of the Obama foreign policy, which is an effort to go focus on the future and always getting sucked back in to a series of conflicts which the president believes are fundamentally rooted in civil wars that he can't affect as much as we would all like to say he could.
Margaret, closing.
I don't think the Middle East will ever allow itself to be ignored.
That's mine.
That's
my
I don't think that's a good thing necessarily.
No, but I think that's the reality.
I think that's the reality.
We'll always be involved in the Middle East because
Yes.
we have to be involved in the Middle East.
Yes, I would agree with that. And I also think it's interesting when I travel a lot overseas and you hear people describe what America wants, what the U.S. wants. I think it's because a lot of these countries and the leadership they have is thinking longer term because they stay for a longer term. We have elections and every 4 years, and who knows what the next foreign policy will be. But certainly Asia is going to be a huge part of it, but Middle East isn't going to be ignored.
Well, on behalf of CSIS and TCU,